Abyssal Murmurs. Lately, I've been trying to send you stories every day, but I feel like a large number of people who have signed up almost never come back to listen to the stories. I don't know where that is. Make you unhappy. I hope to receive comments and suggestions from you. And if you find the video good, please give me a like to give me more motivation. For those who have not yet subscribed, don't forget to click the subscribe button and press notification bell to wait for the next story. Now let's get into the story. Story 1. The Dudley House. Gideon Dudley settled in this house in 1747 on land that was once a Mohawk Indian tribal ground. The surrounding forest was named Dark Entry. Many people are said to have vanished into the forest, while many others who have lived in there have gone insane. People who visit the forest today claim to hear screams coming from deeper in the forest. Visitors to the area have even had the sensation of being pushed by unseen hands, scratched, and witnessed orbs. An anonymous person who got close to the house claimed to have heard manic banging on one of the windows from the inside. He couldn't see who or what it was, as the blinds on the other side were down. However, he could see the blinds being pressed into the window with each bang. Now owned by the Dark Entry Forest Association, it is heavily patrolled by state and local authorities, who warn that anyone visiting the site will be arrested. Story 2. The Harlo House. In 1932, 42-year-old Hollywood producer Paul Byrne married 21-year-old Hollywood starlet Jean Harlo. 2 months later, Byrne died under mysterious circumstances in the couple's home. After crime scene tampering from high-level studio executives, his death was ruled a suicide, though suspicions fell on his ex-wife, who committed suicide a day after his death. Jean would die 5 years later of renal failure, and the house later became the home of Sharon Tate, who claimed to have seen Byrne's ghost on the grounds. Sharon Tate, as you might know, was savagely murdered by members of the Manson family. People who have gone to visit the house, or just to see it up close in person, have reported seeing shadowy figures standing by the windows and at other times feeling a ghostly presence surround them. Story 3. The Connecticut funeral home, built in 1916. This suburban residential home was used as a funeral home from the 1930s until it was purchased by the Sneaker family of upstate New York in 1986. Upon moving in, the Snedekers found various mortuary items such as coffin handles and a blood drainage pit, and a series of supernatural phenomena showed up next. First, it started out with just doors and windows opening and closing. Then it got much more horrifying. They would wake up at night to screams coming from around the house, or cries coming from inside closets. The oldest son, who was at the time in the middle of radiation treatment, began to exhibit radical personality shifts, becoming withdrawn and angry. He began writing poetry with necrophilic themes, and during one intense episode, he attacked his cousin with the intent to rape her. His family had him arrested and taken for an evaluation where he was pronounced schizophrenic. He was removed from the house and seemed to get better until returning. They moved out sometime that same year. Story 4. The Summerwind House, located on the shores of West Bay Lake in the far northeast regions of Wisconsin, are the ruins of a once grand mansion that was called Summerwind. The house is long gone now, but the memories remain, as do the stories and legends of the inexplicable events that once took place here. The mansion was built in 1916 by Robert P. Lamont as a summer home for he and his family. Nestled on the shores of the lake, The house caught the cool breezes of northern Wisconsin and provided a comfortable place for Lamont to escape the pressures of everyday life in Washington, D.C., as he would later go on to serve as Secretary of Commerce under President Herbert Hoover. But life was not always perfect at the summer home, as legends have it. One night, the basement door began to rattle, and Lamont, thinking it was an intruder, actually fired a pistol through the door twice. It turned out it was not an intruder, however, but rather a ghost. The bullet holes in the basement door from the kitchen remained for many years. Upon the death of Robert Lamont, the house was sold a couple times. It seemed that nothing strange really happened there besides Lamont's encounter with a ghostly intruder until the early 1970s. It was in this period that the family living in the house was nearly killed, supposedly by ghosts. Arnold Hinshaw, his wife, Ginger, and their 6 children moved into Summerwind in the early part of the 1970s. They would only reside in the house for 6 months, but it would be an eventful period of time. From the day that they moved in, they knew strange things were going on in the house. It had been vacant for some time, but it had apparently been occupied by otherworldly visitors. The Hinshaws and their children immediately started to report vague shapes and shadows flickering down the hallways. They also claimed to hear mumbled voices in darkened, empty rooms. When they would walk inside, the sounds would quickly stop. Most alarming was the ghost of the woman who was often seen floating back and forth just past some French doors that led off from the dining room. Windows and doors that were closed would reopen on their own. One particular window, which proved especially stubborn, would raise and lower itself at all hours. Out of desperation, Arnold drove a heavy nail through the window casing, and it finally stayed closed. Strange phenomena continued to occur all the way until the family moved out. Story 5. On a quiet residential street in a small town sits an old white frame house. On a dark evening, the absence of lights and sounds are the first indication to visitors that this house is different from the other homes that surround it. Upon closer inspection, you'll notice its doors and windows are tightly closed and covered. An outhouse in the backyard suggests that this house does not occupy a place in the 21st century, but somehow belongs in another era or story. A weather-beaten sign hanging from the decrepit front porch warns, rather than welcomes. This house is known as the Murder House. The walls still protect the identity of the killer or killers who bludgeoned to death the entire family of Josiah Moore and 2 overnight guests on June 10, 1912. Almost 97 years later, the house's secret continues to draw many visitors to the door. To some, it seems to be speaking. Visits by paranormal investigators have provided audio, video, and photographic proof of paranormal activity. Tours of the house have actually been cut short by children's voices, falling lamps, moving ladders, and flying objects. Physics seem to have confirmed the presence of spirits dwelling in the home, and many have claimed to have communicated with them. Thank you for always supporting the channel and welcoming its videos. Wishing you good health, and remember to subscribe to the channel to achieve 1,000 subscriptions.